My name is Evelyn Harper, and at 74 years old, I finally learned the hardest and most liberating lesson of my life. Family isn't always the people you're born to, it's the people who choose you, day after day, without keeping a scorecard. It all began on a quiet October afternoon. I was sitting in my favorite rocking chair by the window, knitting a soft pink and white baby blanket. I'd been working on it for months, ever since Daniel and Claire hinted they were trying. Every stitch carried a dream, of tiny fingers holding my hand, of lullabies in my little house, of being the grandma who spoiled her first grandchild rotten. I'd already bought the crib, solid oak, $800, the stroller, $450, the rocking horse, even a whole layette of organic cotton onesies. My retirement savings were shrinking fast, but what's money compared to family? I picked up the phone to call Daniel about Thanksgiving plans. I was picturing all of us around my dining table, turkey, my famous cranberry relish, maybe announcing the pregnancy officially. Claire answered, her voice that syrupy, sweet tone she used when she wanted something. "Oh, Evelyn," she said, laughing lightly, "we already had the gender reveal party last weekend. We kept it small and intimate, just the closest people, you know." Closest people? The words landed like a slap. I sat there, frozen, knitting needles still in my hands, yarn tangled in my lap. Closest people? Not me, the woman who'd been sending them $700 every single month for 3 years to cover the gap in their mortgage. Not me, who'd paid $12,000 for Claire's fertility treatments when their insurance wouldn't. Not me, who'd skipped my own medications some months, eaten canned soup for dinner, canceled the cruise I'd saved for, all so they could have the life they wanted. Daniel came on the line, mumbling excuses. "Mom, we didn't want to overwhelm you with a big crowd. It was just immediate family and a few friends." But I'd already opened Instagram on my tablet. There it was, story after story. Claire glowing under a massive pink balloon arch that spelled, "It's a girl," her parents beaming beside them, her sister popping confetti, her college roommates toasting with champagne, coworkers, neighbors, even the dog wearing a pink bandana. 50 people, easy. Everyone celebrating my son's baby, everyone except me. I stared at the ultrasound photo they'd texted me months ago, the one I'd printed and framed and kept on my mantle. I'd cried happy tears that day, all alone in my living room. A week later, my phone rang. Claire's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but old habits die hard. "Evelyn?" Her voice was small, trembling. "The mortgage is 2 months behind. The bank sent a late notice, and they're talking foreclosure. Did something happen with the transfer this month?" I closed my eyes. I could hear the panic, the unspoken accusation. For years, that first-of-the-month transfer had been as regular as my heartbeat. I'd canceled my own plans, driven to the bank in snowstorms, eaten beans and rice so I could send them money for date nights, new tires, Claire's self-care spa days. "Claire," I said, and my voice was calm, calmer than I felt. "I thought I only helped the closest people." Dead silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Evelyn, I don't understand. You've always said we were family. You're like a second mom to me." I almost laughed. A second mom, the kind you keep in reserve for emergencies and exclude from the milestones. The calls escalated after that, first pleading, then angry, then guilt-soaked. Daniel left voicemails. "Mom, you're not thinking clearly. This isn't like you." Claire sent long texts about how stress affects older people, how I might be confused. They showed up unannounced one afternoon with a man in a suit, some elder law attorney they'd found online. He sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd written countless checks, and explained, in that gentle, condescending tone, that they were concerned about my recent erratic decisions, sudden stopping of financial support, isolating myself, possible early dementia. They wanted a temporary conservatorship for my own protection. I looked at my son. My only child, the boy I'd raised alone after his father died when he was 10, and I didn't recognize him. His eyes were fixed on the floor. Claire's hand rested possessively on his arm. The lawyers slid papers toward me, power of attorney, guardianship petitions. I didn't touch them. "Please, leave my house," I said. My voice didn't shake.
They didn't go quietly. Threats of court, warnings that I'd end up alone in a home with strangers making my decisions. Claire cried, real tears this time, or close enough. "We're doing this because we love you, Evelyn." I closed the door behind them and leaned against it. The house was silent. For the first time in years, it felt like my house again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up and pulled out every bank statement, every transfer record, every receipt. 3 years, $700 a month for the mortgage, $25,200, fertility treatments, $12,000, baby furniture and gear, $3,800, random emergencies, car repairs, vacations, credit card minimums, another $10,000. Total, over $51,000, more than half my retirement savings, money my husband and I had saved for decades so I wouldn't be a burden to anyone. The next morning, I drove to the bank and canceled every automatic payment, opened a new account at a different branch, changed my phone number, had the locks replaced, installed a simple camera doorbell. Small steps, but they felt enormous. Of course, they noticed immediately. The calls came from unknown numbers, texts from new accounts. They drove by the house, slowly, like they were casing it. One day, I came home to find them on my porch again, this time with a social worker they'd called with an anonymous concern about my welfare. The social worker was kind but thorough, asked about my daily routine, my finances, my support system. I showed her my bank statements, my grocery receipts, the calendar full of senior center activities I'd started attending. She left with a polite nod and closed the case. But they weren't done. A month later, I got official papers, a petition for guardianship filed in probate court. They claimed I was incompetent, confused, paranoid, unable to manage my affairs. They had affidavits from Claire's cousin, a nurse, saying I'd seemed disoriented on the phone, from a neighbor who barely knew me claiming I'd installed unnecessary surveillance, even a statement from my pharmacist about irregular medication purchases, when the truth was I'd always been healthy and only bought vitamins. I panicked at first, but then I got mad. I found an elder law attorney through the senior center, Margaret O'Donnell, sharp as a tack and kind as could be. She looked over everything and said, "Evelyn, this is textbook financial exploitation. We're going to fight it." And we did. I got an independent psychiatric evaluation, passed with flying colors. "Cognitively excellent for your age," the doctor wrote. My new friends from the senior center, Betty, June, Dolores, and Fran, agreed to testify. They'd watched my transformation from quiet, anxious woman who jumped every time her phone rang to someone who laughed loudly, took watercolor classes, and volunteered at the hospital maternity ward twice a week. Court day came in early spring. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one I'd bought for the gender reveal that never included me. Daniel and Claire sat on the other side, dressed like they were attending a funeral. Their lawyer painted me as a lonely, confused widow being taken advantage of by new acquaintances. Then Margaret put me on the stand. I told my story, calmly, clearly. The monthly transfers, the fertility bills, the baby gifts, the exclusion from the gender reveal, the exact words. Only the closest people. I looked right at Daniel when I said, "I sacrificed everything to help you build the family you wanted, and when that family arrived, there was no room for me in it." Claire pried on cross-examination when Margaret asked her to name one time in the last year she'd called me just to talk, not to ask for money. She couldn't. Daniel couldn't look at me at all. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, didn't take long. "This court finds no evidence of incapacity," she said. What we have here is a competent adult who has chosen to stop enabling financial dependency. Petition denied, costs to the petitioners. We won. Afterward, in the hallway, Claire tried one last time. "Evelyn, please, the baby's coming in 3 months. We need you." I looked at her, at both of them, and felt nothing. No anger, no guilt, just peace. "You have everything you need," I said. "You just have to pay for it yourselves now." I never heard from them again. Not a card when the baby was born, not a text, nothing. And you know what? It doesn't hurt anymore. These days, I volunteer in the maternity ward every Tuesday and Thursday. I hold newborns whose mothers actually want me there. Tired, grateful young women who let me rock their babies and tell them they're doing a great job. I've become Grandma Evelyn to half a dozen little ones whose real grandparents live far away. I finished that pink and white blanket, donated it to the hospital nursery. I travel now, took a bus tour through New England last fall to see the leaves, joined a watercolor class. My paintings aren't half bad. I laugh more, sleep better, eat actual meals instead of whatever's cheapest. My heart is fuller than it's been in years, not because I'm needed as a wallet, but because I'm wanted as a person. Blood doesn't always make family. Sometimes family is the friends who show up with coffee when you're scared, the attorney who fights for you pro bono because she believes in you, the new mothers who trust you with their precious babies. Sometimes family is the maternity ward full of tiny miracles and tired smiles. Sometimes family is finally yourself. My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 74 years old, and for the first time in my life, I come first. And darlings, if you're reading this and recognizing your own story, please hear me. It's never too late to choose yourself. You are worth more than your bank account. Your love is not for sale. You deserve a full heart too. What would you have done in my place? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them below. And if this story touched you, give it a like and subscribe for more. There are so many of us out there finding our way home to ourselves. With all my love, Evelyn.